This is the Aftermarket Radio Network. Carm Capriato here, the pioneer of Automotive Aftermarket Podcast, with an important episode on culture that can be applied to any business. Goodhart's Law, named after British economist Charles Goodhart, states that when a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure. Sometimes when business owners become focused on a specific measure in their business, like productivity, it can actually hold everyone back. In this episode, Scott Brown from Cardinal Shell discusses how his 5-bay shop produces $4.2 million per year by focusing on the culture of the business. Keep listening for a different perspective that might change the way you do business, if you let it. Hey, thanks to our partner Napa for providing you this episode. You know, it's no secret we are facing a technician shortage. Well, enough said on that. However, Napa Auto Care is addressing that. The free 2-year apprentice program, well, it offers a variety of training to produce a technician with 3 ASE certifications. To learn more, members can visit member.napaautocare.com. Hey, another great episode on culture on the podcast is Town Hall Academy 235. It's about creating a training culture. Head to my website, remarkableresults.biz, or search my Carm Capriato YouTube page for the video 235. Hey, and don't forget to improve the professionalism of our industry. Recommend this podcast to a peer. Hey, a warm welcome to Scott Brown from Cardinal Shell, Springfield, Virginia.
Hey, Carm. Thanks so much for having me on your show today.
Hey, glad you're here. Always enjoy the convo with you. I'm honored, again, of course, to have you. We met in Florida just a few months ago. I just love your wisdom and some really cool things about your great company that you have. Tell me some good, awesome news. What's going on?
The first thing I just wanted to thank you. You bring a lot of encouragement to the independent shop owner world, and I love the way you allow us to learn from each other. I think that's really, really cool. And having said that, everything that I talk about, my team, what we do at my shop, every shop is different. I'm not telling you that I'm the only one I'm an expert at is my own. So please listen. If there's something you can take from it, please do. You're welcome to anything I've got.
That's a great point. Truly it is, because, well, I can't be like Scott, or I can't be like Charlie, or I can't be like Bill, or I can't be like Greg. Well, that's the truest true you can possibly say. I mean, we're going to talk today about culture, and you can steal all of Scott's great ideas, bring them inside your company, and your company evolves to you and your personality and your team and your environment.
Exactly. And the neat thing is, so I've had a single culture for probably the last 30 years, and it's been awesome. You know, it's just a culture of productivity. We're super successful at it. Going into the pandemic at our tiny little, like 2,700 square foot facility, we've been doing 325 cars a week and generating like $4.2 million a year out of just a tiny little 5-bay shop. And our culture was always to have continual small increases in productivity and to have everybody work as a team. My goal was always survival, which is that's the imperative that everything else came from. And that's all changed. I had so much anxiety and was really unfulfilled, by the shop emotionally. And, so I said, hey, we've got the pandemic. We've got a lot of things going on. Maybe we can do a better job. And I think a lot of shop owners, certainly listening to your show, we follow an R&D philosophy. We rob, we duplicate from wherever we can take it, and it's not always even from our industry. And I think that's great. The thing I try to do is I always want to give attribution, wherever possible. So 2 things led me to start over to culture. First, the CEO classes that we talked about a couple weeks ago on your podcast. And one of the jobs the CEO has to do is set the culture and live by the culture that you set. It's got to start from the top. And the second thing, my son introduced me to the ideas of an amazing college rugby coach named Jack Clark. And he called his culture being grateful for everything, entitled to nothing. Just brilliant stuff.
Can we repeat that? Just wait 1 minute. I mean, that's so worthy of repeating. Grateful for everything, entitled to nothing.
It just validated all the ideas that have been running around in my head, just waiting to get set free. It took months, but it's starting to become the culture at Cardinal Plaza, as well as the culture of Jack Clark's NCAA championship rugby team.
Let me stop you there for a minute and let everyone realize, I don't know if you heard the numbers, 2,600 square foot, 2,700 square foot operation, and the numbers you do. And then with this, if you will, rebirth culture and, the if you will, the COVID or the post-COVID attitude, I know your numbers are beyond that, and maybe a little later you'll share that. But we talk about business culture a lot on the show, Scott, and one of the things that I believe is a problem inside of our industry is I can never do what Scott's going to do because I don't feel good and I don't understand what a culture is. You're going to tell us about it. You're going to come up with the framework of it. But business culture, in a nutshell, it's related to the behaviors, the ethics, the etiquette. It encompasses the organization's values, visions, working style, beliefs, and habits. How hard is that?
The CEO, whoever's running the organization, has to set the value system. And it's got to be pretty rigid. And so that value system becomes basically kind of like your operating system in a computer. So for ours, it's selflessness, team first, self second, gratitude and entitlement, which is the grateful for everything, entitled to nothing. That creates an attitude of resilience. So instead of chasing productivity, now we're just trying to achieve a performance. And then the third thing is merit. So that performance that we just talked about, that becomes the currency between the team members. Yeah, we still value seniority, we value potential, but we're really looking to get stuff done today. And so that comes to merit. And all those things just flow naturally. And a bunch of other things flow also out of that one phrase, grateful for everything and entitled to nothing. There's like an ancient Chinese curse, and it says, may you live in interesting times. And if you think about it, you can realize why that's a curse. And I think that our current world qualifies. This is very, very interesting. We all know, especially during the pandemic, but running a independent repair shop is exhausting. It's stress-inducing, and it's overwhelming in the best of times. And these haven't been the best of times. So this is really, kind of about my story. And like I said, it's not really advice for anyone else.
But we learn from people's stories. So, God, I can't wait to hear it.
There was a whole class at the super conference about telling stories. I think it was Jeff Berman, and it was just fantastic. And I never think that, honestly, my story is one that's interesting to people, but you asked me on, so you get it anyway. But I fell into a trap, and I think a lot of us fall into the same trap. And I felt like I had to do everything myself, had to be strong for the family, strong for the team. And if I didn't show anybody just how scared I was, then everything's going to be okay. And I felt like everything was up to me, so if I worked a little bit harder, read another book, watched the next Town Hall Academy, then I would be okay. And it was all I. So my life was completely backwards. And so I learned so much, in the past year. And if I could just share a couple of these things. First, I think my sense of aloneness was entirely in my head. It was just a mental problem. I had my 20 group, my coaches, my friends in the automotive aftermarket, that care about each other. Could have reached out to anybody except for a problem with pride. Most of all, you got the team at the shop and you got your family at home. And again, pride keeps me from wanting to show any kind of vulnerability to those groups. Again, I just had a problem showing weakness. Then there was one thing that kind of turned me around. I joined a devotional group with other shop owners. And my first realization, I'm not in control. So I need to rely less on myself and trust in God a little bit more, and just take nothing in my life for granted. And then all of a sudden, those I's become we. I gave my business to God. We can talk about that later if you want, but I will tell you, for the first time in decades, I lost all my anxiety, and I still have zero anxiety now, because all my victories, all the defeats, everything become his. And, the strength that I just felt like I didn't have enough of, I don't know how you people get by just on their own physical strength. I get replenished every day. And at the same time, I became a little bit less concerned with my needs and more concerned with the needs of others. And, so then I was no longer afraid to be vulnerable. We had some great conversations. My coach, we sent out a communication survey to the team, an engagement survey. And it turns out I am terrible at communication. I thought I was good, but I'm not. And so we decided to fix that. Plato says that, the beginning is the most important part of the work. And so we got started. Giving up control was the key to allowing my team to thrive. So for years, I brag about them, on places like Town Hall Academy or in conferences. And, now with the future to shop on the line, could I just get out of the way and trust those guys or just, fall back into the same old traps?
Did you ponder that a lot?
For weeks and weeks and weeks. And, do I want to go down, let's hire somebody who I think might be better. Let's squeeze a little bit more productivity out of the guys. Let's hire that hot A-Tech. Maybe we'll get a new organizational chart. But instead, I just decided to trust the team. And it was awesome. And I realize now that the only barrier at my shop, and I think a lot of shops, is me. So instead of asking the team to deliver profit, we started focusing on achieving performance, part of the new culture. I've grown to love one-on-ones, and we're using these to define and refine our shop culture. It helps that we have the same identical team with a few additions that we went into the pandemic with. So we have all that shared experience, and the guys really, really stepped up in ways that I could have never imagined going into it, just by me giving them more responsibility. We value selflessness, merit, resilience. I want them to take all those ideas that are buried inside their heads and release them into the marketplace. And they make my shop so much better. It's just kind of a change of mindset. So now, instead of constantly trying to improve our productivity, we're trying to improve our culture every single day. Constant increases in culture, whether that's somebody that's staying late to help somebody else, or whether that's somebody, recognizing hard work, from someone else, or, just someone, going out of their way to, to give someone an attaboy. It's everybody is giving back to the middle, which is how we define leadership. It's not, so I tell them, this is part of the whole thing, that being a leader isn't going to necessarily be the service advisor or the COO or the head tech. It can be anybody, and it can be, and so they give back to each other, and whoever's helping other people perform better, those are my leaders. And it seems to resonate.
There is no way to really measure your improved culture numerically, or do you say, listen, if our productivity is higher and our sales are growing, customer surveys are great, reviews are good, do you say that group, if you will, if those were your measures? I guess we want the audience to realize, how do you know the culture is taking shape and working? I love going into my shop now, and I love every person that's in there. And if you have those feelings, then your culture's working. Now, I will say that there's an economic law called Goodhart's Law, and all that states is really simple: is that if you're focusing on a metric, doesn't matter what that metric is, the second you start to focus on it, that metric is no longer serves its purpose. So by me focusing on productivity, even though we had incredibly high numbers, I was holding us back. So now that we're not focusing on that, we have gained an extra 120 cars a week. I mean, that's on top of the three. So we're about 425 to 450 cars a week out of that tiny little shop. And the revenue's grown by 25%. And this is all just in the last 2 months. And
it's, so we're still feeling our way out how to deal with all the new business. That's like adding a whole nother shop on top of the shop that we already had, and I think that's part of it. That's Goodhart's Law, because we're no longer focusing on the numbers. We're focusing on the achievement, the process that it takes to get to those numbers. And so I know that if they're doing a great job on that process, that the numbers are going to be there.
I've been around a little bit, Scott, but I've never heard of Goodhart's Law. I never have. I mean, you've just taught me something new.
My son that introduced me to Jack Clark, he's an economist. He introduces me to so many new ideas. So I R&D from my own child all the time.
Does your son work in the business?
He actually works a company that manages money in North Carolina. Down in Charlotte, and I don't think that I could possibly afford him. He's just he's just really, really smart. Does a wonderful job. I would love to have him work with me. Any of my kids, honestly.
You were telling me that Cardinal is a unicorn of productivity.
It kind of is. But I don't think that there's anything that we do that any shop could duplicate. Assuming that you have the amount of customer density and the cars that are in the fleet that we service, then I think anybody can have dramatic. I hear people and oh my gosh, I'm stuck and I need to open a new 8-bay shop because in my 6-bay shop, we've got all we can do and we're doing about 1.5 million a year. And I'm like, God, I wish I had 6 bays, and I know they can do more than that. And it's just, and again, I think it's all mindset.
I look at 425 plus vehicles now, averaging, last time you told me $100,000 a week. Should you be slowing down though to speed up? I mean, are you doing a thorough enough job? Are the DVIs, really getting done?
Well, DVIs are one of those things. That's one of the things that we look at, because again, if you're doing the percentage of DVIs is higher, then you're going to have a better ARO. So I don't look at the ARO. We'll look at the percentage of DVIs. And if you want to go further and look at the amount of pictures that are on each DVI, that also drives it. So those are the types of performances that we mean. And we're actually in the process where we're developing different KPIs for the different jobs. Instead of just having like 5 KPIs or whatever that giant list that we have at ATI, we're going to have KPIs for my light service techs and different KPIs for my technicians, and then even a third set of KPIs for my service advising team or the executive team. Like everything, it's a work in progress, but I have very high hopes that it's going to be successer's
Whose shop is it anyway?
That's what I recommended is a church. You would think it's the owner's shop, but I think it's a shop is going to be anybody's but the owner's. It's going to be your shop's going to belong to your clients. It's going to belong to your team. It's going to belong to God. It's going to belong to so many people that aren't you. It's my dad, one of his jobs, he was a drill instructor in the Marines. And, one of the things that they learned in the military is that if you're a leader, you always make sure the troops get taken care of first. They get fed first. They get their tents up first. They get the shelter. Everything happens, and then the lieutenant or the sergeant or whoever's in charge is last. And I think that type of servant mindset really serves a shop owner well. And if it's a mindset, it's not something that you put on, just for 15 minutes when you're in the shop. It's something that you live.
Carm here, and coming up, Scott discusses organizational debt, what it means, and how it can negatively affect the business. Hey, it's Carm here to tell you about the best shop management solution for your auto care center, Trax Enterprise. Now, since Napa introduced Trax in 1989, it's been the industry's leading shop management system out there. Today, Trax Enterprise offers even more of the features auto care center owners want, things like a powerful interactive scheduling calendar, faster and streamlined workflow, multi-shop capabilities, easy pay consumer financing integration, and more. That means you can count on Trax Enterprise to help drive your success today and well into the future. The tabbed interface lets you open and view multiple estimates, ROs, invoices, and purchase orders, all at the same time. You can even place windows side by side, over or under, or drag a tab from another application outside tracks to open another window. One auto care center owner said he loves being able to have 10 to 12 work orders open at once. Enterprise also offers a Microsoft Outlook type calendar so you can view daily, weekly, and monthly schedules, drag and drop appointments between days and times, and block time to indicate length of work. Punch out to Mitchell Pro Demand is another huge benefit. It provides embedded labor, part, maintenance, and fluid capacities that can be transferred to estimates and repair orders within Trax. Trax Enterprise also streamlines parts ordering. Just one click and it's done. The mobile capture app sold another auto care owner on Trax Enterprise. He said there's no reason to write VINs by hand anymore. You can decode the VIN from a mobile device and send all the information directly to Trax. There are reporting features too. For example, with just a couple of clicks, you can find out how many repair orders you've written in a month. Talk to your Napa Auto Parts store and find out more about what Trax Enterprise can do for you, plus the hundreds of other great things the Auto Care program has to offer. Beliefs. You're talking so much about beliefs. You basically summed up your passion and the power that culture can bring to a company. The right culture influences every decision that everybody makes. It's one of those "what would Scott do" moments.
Well, hopefully they never think that, because I may be one of the most flawed individuals that you'll ever know. But hopefully, what I like to do is I like them to have competition with themselves. So Jason is maybe the smartest technician that I've ever met, and he's our top guy. And I don't want him competing with Ozzy or CJ or Zach. I want him competing with last week's Jason, and I want him competing with future Jason. Because that way everybody can still be pulling together. And like, there may be a guy in your shop that he's not turning as many hours. All the guys around him were doing amazing numbers, and it turned out that guy was helping people. He was interrupting himself. He was serving the team, that leadership that we talked about. So a lot of times you've got to look well beyond the numbers in order to, because we're trying to run a team, not run 8 individuals.
I love this concept. Please listen to it again. Compete with Jason last week and the future Jason. The focus, the pressure is on your performance and not the team. But isn't that really, Scott, what you have is this incredibly cohesive team? It's just that you choose not to measure it individually. Or no, you choose not to measure it by the team.
You're exactly right. And I think, when it comes down to culture, so people always talk about having a hard time, in the current environment, building a team or maintaining a team. And building the team, that's another one of those CEO jobs. If you don't have a team, it's not your manager's fault. And a lot of times, people will join a shop, but they're gonna quit a bad culture. So it's up to you. And so we use those same selflessness, gratitude, entitlement, merit, and we treat everyone the same. And so when you're building a team, I'm looking for the grinders. I want people that are happy, when the work gets hard. Talent certainly matters, but I want those individual team members to get where they need to be as individuals. So we focus a lot on training, money, opportunity, and respect. Those are the 4 things that I try to give to all those people that decide to invest part of their lives with the shop. And I try to be interested, or the team does, in what they can do so we can give them work that plays to their strengths. So some people we may hire as a technician, and it turns out they're better in the office. Or we may hire someone in the office, and it turns out, wow, they're great at triaging cars, and they need to get out into the shop. I just want to be around people that love the work, love the people they're doing it with, and love the shop itself. I
love what you just said about triaging cars. Is that a key component of what you do?
All of our service advisors are really, really hands-on, and we do things very different than any other shop I've ever seen. But one of the things that we do, when we go out to the car, they'll listen to that noise. They'll look at something that's hanging down or dripping down underneath the car. They'll take it for a road test with the customer. And that way it makes it much easier. They know where it goes in the stack and what technician it's going to go to, because they've done that little bit, just we're very similar to like an ER in a independent repair shop. So you're not going to go to the hand surgeon if you've got shards of glass in the back of your head. You're going to go to the plastic surgeon. It's just that sort of thing. And I think one of the things that helps you be super busy, and I'm going to really make a lot of people upset, to help you be productive, I want to not have a broken culture, because I think getting rid of the stuff that's broken is almost as important as having good stuff to back it up with. So if you're living inside of a broken culture in a shop, and there are a lot of shops that have broken cultures, and I'm not going to say that mine's not, but you don't have to live with that, So if you have bureaucracy, or if somebody needs permission from more than one person, to make a purchase or to, try something new, or if there's a lack of communication, which I'm guilty of, or if you have budgets and controls and plans that just cripple creativity, those are all broken cultures. Things like, people talk a lot about budgets, and I think budgets are just tyranny. People spend all the time trying to work to that budget. Those Gantt plans, we're going to have a Gantt plan and we're going to do this and this. People are working for the plan instead of working for the clients. I don't want to waste our time on internal compliance. We just want to get rid of organizational debt wherever it exists. I
love that, organizational debt. That is just such a powerful word right there. Wow.
Yeah, that's not my word. I got that off of a book that I read, but it was a brilliant book, and the author just said, hey, anything that, let's say somebody left a lug nut loose, and so you create a new procedure for every car regarding lug nuts, or somebody broke a drain plug or an oil pan or something, and now you've got rules about that. And it happened once. You don't really need those rules. That's what I would consider to be organizational debt. All those things that don't really serve the organization.
I guess it goes to the fact that so many in geopolitical or in government today, one thing happened for the first time ever, and they have to create a law or a rule around that never happening again.
And then you've got thousands of these little rules, and people may not even realize where they come from. We talk about budgets, and people, in my 20 group, we're doing 3-year budgets and 5-year budgets. Amazon does 2 budgets. They do a 6-month budget, and they do a 30-year budget, and that's it. The company runs completely without it, and they don't have any of that. That's, where you talk about internal compliance, and then they don't have to measure people's performance compared to the budget and things. I just want the people out there serving our clients, serving each other. We talked about authority, because that's one of the things that we do is we're, as a group, like during our one-on-ones, we're trying to define all these words, and we're nowhere near done. But the one we were talking about this month, we were talking about authority, and we didn't quite get to an answer. So it's going to be next month's word also, but I think that it's, is somebody that was legitimately exercising power has authority. So you can be the boss and still not have authority. But what I want them to see is that, yeah, you've got authority over your own life. You got authority over yourself. You got authority over the work that you do. And I think that's going to be a powerful lesson for them. And, or it won't. Because we try a lot of things that don't work.
Before Scott Brown made this monumental 360, did you give your people the freedom and the authority to serve their clients, your clients?
A lot of what we're talking about hasn't changed, and I want them to get better at productivity every day. It's just not the main thing that we're thinking about. I think that I want to push the decisions, any big decisions, small decisions, as far down into the organization as possible. I've got like 4 or 5 people that have credit cards, and they're able to make purchases without consulting with me as long as those things are going to comply with our 3 guidelines. Be selfless, either entitled gratitude or entitlement, and help merit in some way. As long as they don't violate our core beliefs, yeah, no one's ever going to get in trouble. for making a decision. I don't want the decisions to be made by the thinkers. I want them to be made by the people that are doing.
The doers, yeah. Do you have the trust and verify in play, though? I mean, are you looking over the credit card statements?
Oh, we look. I mean, I'm not saying that we don't look at them later and ask questions about it. We had one. It was funny. Just I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks ago, and Chris, who's going to be on your show, I think it was Chris. He bought a scan tool that we already owned. He didn't. So there wasn't enough communication. So we completely failed on that. As far as. But the fact that they needed that particular scan tool, yeah, that's okay. I would have liked them to, communicate a little bit better, but, everybody's heart's in the right place. And I don't have a rule that now everybody's got to go talk to 12 people before they make any purchase. We just, it's a funny thing that, now we have 2, so it just, if you don't have funny stories like that, what are you really doing?
Really, that's the human side of all the great rules. Those are the human sides of communication. Those are the human sides of growing pains, and evolving. One of the things that you said earlier, the R&D thing, I'll never forget doing a show with Frank Scandura. And Frank did the first time I heard him, he was big time on R&D, rip off and duplicate. And so I guess I want to encourage everyone who's listening to this incredible episode on culture with Scott Brown from Cardinal Shell in Springfield, Virginia, is I hope you took some great notes. On the show page for this episode on the remarkableresults.biz page, you'll see these. Click, copy, paste these into your own little notes and take it to your team, take it to yourself, and look at how you can take this evolution into your own company. This is phenomenal stuff, and everything may not necessarily work for anyone, but some of the stuff will, and that may just just explode the thinking and an improved culture at places.
Well, I would just say, again, I wanted to thank you for having me on. It's been a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun thinking and getting my thoughts together, because sometimes you get in the middle of something like this and it's just a stack of paperwork on your desk, and it's easy, to lose your way. And so this probably helps me more than it helps any other person that's possibly listening to this.
Thank you for saying that, because, and my listeners have heard me say this before, when you teach, you learn. Yeah, and what you just did is you just taught.
And when you're teaching, it's kind of like coaching. And so I'm not surprised that all of these, or a lot of these great ideas, came from one of the most successful coaches on the collegiate level, in NCAA history. And, and if you got somebody that's that successful, and I feel like I almost feel like I know him, because I've been living his stuff, for months now. And, it's just brilliant stuff. Yeah. And what he's done, we can all do. If you want to see a total masterclass in changing culture, it's the TV show. It's on Apple Plus, called Ted Lasso. I've been watching this for weeks with my team. Like once a week, we each get together and we watch an episode. And we're about halfway through the first season. There's a new season coming out in just a little while at the end of this month. But the rumor is that that Ted Lasso is based on Jack Clark. And so, I've got a book, and when we watch it, then I ask the guys, hey, what lessons did you get out of that episode? And, like in episode 1, he's like celebrating big things and small things with his team. He knows everybody's name. He's positive. He compliments. He takes advice. He works hard. In every single episode, there's lessons like that. And the lessons aren't all the same. There's new lessons in every episode. And it's just it's amazing. It's a different way to change culture than anything I've ever seen. You watch it enough, all of a sudden, I'm at my shop and I'm channeling Ted Lasso and Jack Clark, trying to, go around and be kind to everybody. And it actually makes it a lot of fun.
You're emulating and trying to live in the learning that you're getting from both of them. And you're keeping a journal. I love it.
And if you didn't know that you were learning stuff, it's still a really funny show.
I don't have Apple Plus, but maybe I need to get it just for that. This was phenomenal. I think this could go down as a placeholder culture episode. Scott, thank you so much for coming on. Scott Brown from Cardinal Shell, one hell of an operation out in Springfield. I say Springfield because that's where I live. Springfield, Virginia. Thanks, Scott.
Thanks, Carm. Have a great day.
Thanks for being on board to listen and learn from the premier automotive aftermarket podcast. Until next time.